I think most creators are terrified of failure, but we're here to tell you today that you shouldn't be. In fact, failure is your number one tool into building success for the future. So let's talk about it today on GodMade. Back at it again. We're testing a lot of different things here on GodMade. We're seeing a lot of failure. Not only here, but of course in all of our stuff that we do, right? And that's because we're at the beginning of this journey, right? And I think a lot of times people forget that there is a beginning and there is a middle and there is an end. And right now we're just at the beginning. We're figuring things out. We're moving through that and seeing what it looks like, because we just don't have any idea what this is eventually going to perfectly be. We're seeing pieces of that, and we have visions for where we want it to be, but God is still kind of revealing to us where we're supposed to be and how we're supposed to get there. So I want to talk today specifically about failure, because there's a lot of failure that I've gone through in my channel and what I've done throughout the Snipe life and now the Chosen Sleuth and other channels that you guys don't even know about, which we'll talk about here. But even through this, I think that it's a good thing to talk about when we have this plan of being content creators and we want to build up the kingdom through content creation. I think we get stuck on this sometimes. So let me hear your thoughts.
How are you defining failure?
Yeah.
Like, that video got 10 views and I wanted to get 100, or I wanted to have people comment and say their lives was changed and they didn't.
Yeah, I think it depends. I think it depends on what your goals are, for sure. I think if your goal is more of a business mindset where it's like, okay, I wanted to make $100 and I made 10, I think that's a failure. I think if you, you have, videos that are going out and you're like, oh, I want them to get this amount. Yeah, I think that's all part of it. Engagement.
So kind of based on goals that you've got in your mind for wanting to achieve, and then you don't, and so failure.
Yeah, I don't think I'm speaking to the point of failure of like, oh, everything's falling down and it's broken, like it's entirely
That's
gone.
what I assumed.
I mean more specifically like, oh, you're not meeting your goals and you're not at where you want to be, right? So a new YouTuber or a new content creator in general, especially in the Christian world, you can feel like, why isn't anybody paying attention to me? Like, what is going on here? Why am I not getting to the goals that I thought that I was going to? And how do I get over that? Right? How do we build sustainably through that failure? I think is really what I want to talk about here.
Well, my first thought is failure is not an identity. Just because you are not a failure when you fail. So when you can remove your identity from the failure experience, then I think it can be a lot more valuable to you. So in my opinion, the more you fail, the closer you are to whatever you want to define as successful. And so it's kind of the irony of the whole creator experience. And honestly, I think it's the irony of life. You see it in sports. You have to fail a ton. You have to practice a ton. You have to make mistakes in order to get better at your sport. You have to make mistakes in order to get better in your craft, that whatever it is you're creating. One of the things I'm pursuing right now is I'm still making YouTube videos, but I'm actually hoping they fail so I can learn. I'm crossing into the threshold of my ego is dead. Like I have sufficiently killed my ego and the value that I put on myself, so that I can learn and get better at whatever it is. Like, why is this failing? I'm almost like, again, seeking out with each video. It's not stopping me as a matter of fact, it's motivating me to make more videos. And that's why I love shorts so much, because I can make them daily, quickly, and I can iterate more quickly rather than these weekly videos, which, I kind of have this week long, I'm kind of an impatient person in general. So I want to get that rejection. I want to get that failure. I want to get that it's almost like a dopamine hit I'm seeking out.
Yeah. I think that's our intro right there. I want to get that rejection. That's a good intro to this video.
Bring it on.
Yeah. So last night I had dinner with a friend he's worked in media for 25 years, like really good at his craft, making songs and such. and he wants to jump into the YouTube space and social media. And I think failure for him right now is that he's waiting for it to be, quote, perfect.
Yeah.
And he's not launched yet. And so my encouragement, and I love when I meet new creators, because I was one 6 months ago, right? But I recognize that it was better for me to start learning, start failing, and getting that feedback from data and analytics and going, what is the YouTube algorithm liking and not liking, versus wanting to have it perfectly polished in my mind and then putting it out there. And so anytime I meet a new creator, it's like, why haven't you started? You've got this idea. You will be embarrassed by the first 5, 10, 20 videos of yours. But that's okay, because each one that you did, you learned a little bit more. So.
Yeah, but I think we have to be honest too and say, let's take YouTube, for example, because I know it the best, right? So statistically, 90% of people that create channels and want to grow them are not going to get to 1,000 subscribers. So, and less than that are going to get to 10,000 subscribers, right? And make an actual living and career and do all these things. So it doesn't always end in success, right? And it may be
so you're talking about how do you deal with the failure of a channel?
Well, I think that's a part of it, but I think so. There's a couple different sides to this. So number one is, how do you deal with failure while you're building, and how do you deal with that? But also coming to the realization of there is a potential for this not to succeed at some point, if you don't follow certain things, right? Like if you just keep on plugging along and you're not changing anything, you're not iterating, you're not going into this and you're not making it better as you go, then you're gonna continue to get the results that you are getting, right? And you're not going to see the success that you want to see, right? So I think I want to just explore all of that, because I think one, for the working creator that's maybe you are monetized, maybe you are making some income, maybe you are getting into this, but you're not seeing the numbers that you want. How do you deal with that and still build sustainably, right? Which is kind of where I am at the moment. I'm in my off season, so I'd say a lot of the videos I'm putting out right now are failures. They're 8 to 10 out of 10, which means that they're the bottom 3 videos of my last 10 videos, right? I'll have some that do better and some that do good, and I'm fine with that. But the majority of the content I'm putting out right now, because it's my off season, it's not performing up to par.
How do you feel when you put all this work into a video and then the feedback that YouTube gives you almost instantaneously is, oh, it's an 8 or 9 or 10 out of 10?
Yeah, it's not a great system, I think. It's very demotivating. You can kind of turn it off. You can kind of just hide the analytics.
Do you do that?
I don't. Normally, I like to see all the analytics. It doesn't bother me as much. So, for me, I actually like to see all the analytics, even if I'm failing, because I can see good things from it. So, let's take GodMade, for example, right? We're just starting this out. This episode may pop off and get 200,000 views. That would be amazing, right? However, a lot of our stuff right now is not really getting pushed in the algorithm at all. It's very little momentum, but there's a lot of good news in our analytics, which is the people that do watch our stuff, they really like it a lot, right? And they're watching all the way through, and they're really captivated by what they're seeing. So they're wanting to learn from people that have done this before. They're wanting to see specifically from a Christian perspective, and so those are great signs that we're seeing people that are really interested in what we're doing. Because otherwise, what you'd normally see is when you start a channel, you're going to tell a few friends, and those friends will go watch it for 5 minutes, and then they'll shut it off, right? But generally what we're seeing, especially on some of our more performing videos, is that people are really engaged all the way through. And I haven't told, several hundred people about our channel, right? You guys haven't.
It's not scalable to tell everybody.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So there's a lot of good stuff that can come from those analytics, even when you are perceptually, failing.
Well, but we're defining failing then compared to your Chosen Sleuth channel or compared to other stuff. So I think that's something, a reminder is, I love that you said, Eric, as far as don't let it be your identity, but also don't fall into the comparison trap and going, well, it's a fail because the positive side is, our retention's great on these episodes. The other positive side is we started 2 months ago and we've got this many videos out. Whereas a lot of people, they haven't even started yet, so looking at those wins of we started, we're changing our format, we're learning with every video.
There is a lot of power when you get back to the biblical side of it. There's so much power in our thought life that we have to pay attention to, and we have to guard ourselves against. I think maybe that's what you're also getting to for the believer, the Christian creative. Like it's really important. And creative people tend to be a lot more emotional and make decisions based on emotions, which can be dangerous, but it's also what makes us creatives and the joy of creation and creating. But it's also very painful. It's a painful process. I remember watching a special, he's not a believer, but Billy Joel was talking about the pain that he would experience about writing songs. And it is a very painful process. And it can be a mental health problem. So failure, when you broach this subject of failure, it's important to have to remember truth in the midst of all of the emotions that you might be experiencing, because all your feelings are not true. So I hope that's maybe an encouragement to the believer who's creating stuff.
Yeah, as a Christian creator, a God-made creator, if we start with what's your why, and if your why is bigger than just big numbers and monetization and money, well, yeah, there's going to be more opportunity to feel failure. But if your bigger purpose is you're creating content to further the kingdom of God, like there's more upside there. Like maybe the video didn't pop off, but you get a comment of someone going, "This blessed my day." Well, that's great. And so again, I think we live in this world of data and analytics, and more numbers is better and more money is better. But we know God has an upside down kingdom. And so how do you measure? I tell some of my digital ad clients that I work with, and they always are asking about social media and organic social media. And we measure success based on how many people we reached in sales and everything. But from a Christian perspective, how do you measure depth and transformation of someone's heart and mind because of your content? That's really hard to measure. And so, but by creating this, and even if you only have 10 views, how do you know that those 10 people didn't have a radically better day because of what you had to say? So, yeah.
Chrissy, my wife, talks about this in the context of songwriting. She says that there's really, sometimes 5 purposes for songs. One is just a song that you write for God. No one else hears it. It's just for him. It's a worship song for him. The second is you and God. It's a relational conversation between you and God. It never pops off or breaks off or whatever. But each of these has inherent value. At the very least, if God is glorified, that has significant value in the kingdom.
Yeah.
The conversation between you and God has significant value between the two of you. And then it kind of escalates from there. Sometimes it's for your congregation, your church congregation. Sometimes it's for a region or an area or a country, but sometimes it's a worldwide hit, and it pops off like that. But neither one of them has, in the kingdom sense, has more worth than the other. So you make a video in the context of YouTube, how would that fit into the context of YouTube? That songwriting analogy.
Yeah, I think you guys are all the things you guys are saying are hitting it on the head for sure. And I think that within that analogy, I think that, yeah, of course, you're going to have videos that are for less people than other videos, right? Or for specific people groups. And so, yes, you can find solace in that. And I agree with that 100%. I think also, though, there's the part of it, which is this is my career. And so there's a fear that's attached to that, right? So for me, one of the biggest fears in my life has always been fear of failure, fear of not being good enough, right? So for me, it's why do people really care about this thing that I'm making? Is it because, they just love the show so much that I'm talking about? Or do they actually like me? Could I be replaced by someone else and that they wouldn't care? All that kind of stuff plays into it, right? Am I good enough to be this person that does this thing, right? Which is why I'm always surprised whenever I have meetings with random people that are heads of companies or directors or whatever else that want to have my opinion. It's this doesn't compute for me because in my mind I have this imposter syndrome that's constant, right?
That is a real thing.
Yeah.
For the new creator, especially.
Yeah, absolutely. And even for me, I've been doing this for 5 years, but I still get to that point. And so for me, it's a fear thing too of I catastrophize a lot of okay, what happens if my next 50 videos are 10 out of 10s, and then I end up getting 50 views a video, you know, and there's no income coming in, then what happens to my entire thing, right? Which is, this is a big part of what I'm talking about when it comes to the failure piece, because yes, for newer creators, it's like, it doesn't matter as much because you never had that income source to begin with. You're not, it's not something that you're relying on. But now for you, like it's like, this is a big part of my business. And if this were to go away tomorrow, what would I do? Right.
Yeah.
So because of that, I built up things around that. I want to get to there in a second, but I think you guys have nailed it on the head. Absolutely. That as Christians, from a Christian perspective, we should not fear anything here, right? So let's say YouTube AdSense was my only form of income, and that's what I was relying on, but that's what God wanted me to do. Then I trust in him no matter what, right? Not necessarily that there's always going to be AdSense there, but even if it were to go away, that he would provide for me and he would figure things out for me, right?
Yeah.
Because I live in his will. I'm a citizen of heaven. I'm an heir to the throne, right? Like these things all come into place. I'm a son of God, right? And so because of that, I see that he'll take care of me no matter what. Even if I were to lose my house, even if I were to lose my car, even if I were to get boils and lose my family like Job, right? Even in those moments, I need to trust him. And I have faith that I can trust him and that he'll take care of me through those things. So as a Christian, that is where we should be, absolutely. But at the same time, God has given us skills and abilities and thoughts and strategies and all these different things to work in this. And so he'll lead you through those things as well. It's very rare that God will just leave you alone to deal with these things and then not give you something to help you through them.
Yeah. I probably lean way too much, I have in the past, on safety. Safety was kind of a thing for me for a long time. And I recognized that actually more recently. That I was really just trying to play everything really safe because I was fearful at the root of it. That's why I started a podcast called The Courage Cast, because I wanted to hold myself accountable to courage. That's what I wanted to do, was deal with fear head on and recognize that where I was avoiding it and seeing that the pathway to courage is going through the thing you fear the most. So in your case, let's just apply that to you and what the natural fears are for you, which is I've tasted some success. I've even talked about it, that I'm making, $100,000 in my business.
Sure.
And that's actually a little bit of facing my fears because I'm actually like talking about it openly.
Right.
It was easier when nobody knew that. But now people know that and like, oh, wait a minute, I'm vulnerable here. And so there's just a number of layers of fear that you're encountering now, which I think comes when you're experiencing it, I would imagine, with you had this one video right now so far that popped off and it's like, it's kind of frustrating.
And now all the other ones feel like a failure. But when I first started, 100, 300 views was great. Yeah. Now it's like, only 300 views.
The expectation changes.
Yes.
I'm grateful for that we have a 200 view video right now with GodMade. But, when we do have one that takes off after that 200,000 video, we're always going to be comparing it. And then financially, my worth is compared to it. So it is a really real fear that you're experiencing. And I think it's shaping us into becoming more trusting of him in the process. You just have to see him faithful. He's been faithful before I was successful. He's going to be faithful now after I've been successful. It's just a different muscle that you're growing, your fear muscle or your courage muscle that's happening for you right now.
Yeah. And I 100% recognize that. And, but also within that whole system, God has also given me safety nets, right? So if everything were to fall and if everything breaks tomorrow, I lose all my money, someone rips out all my money from my bank account, right? I still have my church family. They would take care of me, right? I still have friends like you guys that if I was in a bind, I'm sure that you guys would help me. If it was catastrophe, right? So I have things in place that will always be a safety net for me, right? But in terms of safety as well, I think it is smart to have things in your realm to
different income streams. Number one is like, that's why you've been thinking about this challenge of, I can't just depend on AdSense. It's not healthy or smart to be dependent on one thing. And I'm the king of income streams. I love income streams. So yeah, should you be taking a percentage of the money you're making from AdSense and invest it into stocks or things that are going to produce fruit for you? Yeah, you probably should. Should you diversify your income so that it's investing in other things? Should you be looking for other forms of income like sponsorships? Absolutely. Colin and Samir were just talking about that on one of their more recent episodes with actually an interview they had that I listened to. And, you know, they were talking about how sponsorships is really the number one. Brand partnerships are the number one. That you should probably have more than AdSense.
But then that's a fear too, because if my views are not good enough, how am I possibly going to get sponsorships? You know, things like that always pop up in my head. But a big one for me has always been Patreon. So for me, memberships, which is why we're doing memberships here on GodMade, is such a massive part of the safety net for me, right? So even in that failure, building sustainably for me looks like, do I have a community that I can rely on that's going to be there for me no matter what? Right. And Patreon is that for me, right? Even on my down months, even when I'm not putting out chosen specific content or specific content that they signed up for, they're willing to support me through that. Right. And they're willing to be there. There's not a ton of churn when it comes to that. Like there's not a bunch of people that are dropping off and I'm having
residual income.
Right. And they just want to be there as part of the community to grow and to see what's going on and to, you know, see all the content that I'm putting out. Yes. But primarily they're there to support me is what they really want to do in that, and in my Patreon. It's not always that way, but for me it is. And so that is huge. The community that I have through like emails and then YouTube itself is huge. And so because of those diverse things that I have with affiliates and sponsorships and other things that come through, it helps me to sustainably build even through the times when I'm not doing as well, right? Which I think is something that a lot of creators are missing right now, which is why I wanted to talk about this in general, because I think there's a lot of creators that will go through and they'll be like, okay, I really need this video to hit 500,000 views. If it doesn't hit 500,000 views, then I'm going to be poor. I'm not going to be able to afford this. I'm not going to be able to do this, right? And I don't think that you can rely on that, right? You need to have these other systems that are built up. You need to have more than just that if you want to conquer this fear of failure, but also this perception of like I know a bunch of creators right now that have these systems in place and have their businesses in place to the point where they are getting very low views, which is not what I want. The goal is to get as many views as I can, right? But they do have very low views at times, but they're still able to sustainably run their business, right? But the idea here is, how do you get through that point of like, let's take my example just to give proper numbers, right? So like during my high seasons, I'm used to getting 50,000 to over 100,000 views on a video, right? This is like my high season of like chosen stuff, right? Now, if Mr. Beast gets those views, he's gonna be gone off this earth. He would not be here, right? He would not be very happy. But for me, those are great views, right? And it sustainably brings in really good income for me. However, right now, I'm looking at more like probably an average of 10,000 views after a month, right? Is probably where my videos are sitting. Now I've got some that are overperforming that, some that are underperforming that. But that's about where I'm doing right now, putting out almost daily videos on my channel. So for me, like it's a question of like, okay, how can I build through this? How can I continue to get better? How can I also at the same time not worry about like, oh, I have to do this crazy thing in order to get views, you know, through this failure moment. You see what I'm saying? That's really the point that I'm trying to get to here.
When it probably during the quote failure moments, it also forces you to think outside the box and get creative. And you might be one video away from your next kind of video, you know, video that trends and does really well, you know, and so you may have you'll be forced to come up with other kind of content in between seasons of The Chosen, in between, you know, your busy seasons. So I think it's a good thing to be able to be, you know, pushed a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting question, really interesting discussion, because I think there's certainly opportunities. I heard a little bit of temptation. Like there's a temptation to step out of your standards, your values, your core values. You're tempted to do something crazy to get those views because you value them so much. I'm just thinking, not just you. I know how strong you are in your values and your standards, but I can imagine that somebody listening and watching understands the temptation to do something that will get the views, but will, not be redemptive. Let's just put it that way.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, but I think it also is every time that you encounter that question or the doubt, the fear, every time you encounter it and you overcome it, even those little doses of fear that you're encountering with every video, it's kind of good that you're putting one out daily, because you get to encounter it and you're like always questioning, oh man, like, why isn't this taking off? What's going on? And because you're constantly visiting that, it can be a mental drain. It can be a stressful experience, I would imagine. The situation that you put yourself in as a creator every day. Some days you conquer it, some days you may not. You might go down a spiral, of just like mentally drained, and and that's why you need community around you to give you that support. You don't want to, the thing the enemy wants to do is he wants to get you on an island. He wants to get you feeling like you're the only one who's dealing with this. He wants to get you alone. And the more you can set up those pillars around your life that obviously God knows what he's doing. Like here's the wisdom he gives you. Put yourself around community. Get into the word. What does God say about me? What does the truth say? What is scripture saying about me? And you have the ability to pray, and he's given you wisdom. So, and then you have the ability to take action, and you can change it in an instant. You can make a different decision. You can find another income stream. You have the wisdom to develop these things. And then the last thing you need is just two things: faith. Most importantly, you have to trust him. And then you have to have patience that he is going to bring it to fruition in his time. Yeah. And I think that's the joy and the stress about walking with God. But ultimately, we win and you have victory. I'm not just speaking to you. I'm speaking to the viewer. I don't know. I hope I'm not speaking too general. I hope I'm speaking specifically to their situation and it makes an impact.
I think it's all perspective too. I mean, you reference Mr. Beast, but like all of us are on a creator journey. And if you look back to videos you did 3 years ago, you'd be like, I can't believe where I'm at today. You'll be grateful. Like, even though you're going, oh, maybe right now it's a slow season for my channel. But if you just, go to a journal entry or go back in your analytics and go, man, 3 years ago, I was happy to get 1,000 views. Now I'm bummed if I get 10,000. Well, hopefully, 5 years from now, we're all going, yeah, we're only getting 100,000 on ours, and we're used to getting 500,000. So it is this kind of, you got to also remember where God's taken you, where we've been going. And these same things you're going to wrestle with, whether you're 1 million views or 10. And so recognizing that we're growing.
Gratefulness. You touch on a really good point, Matt. Gratefulness. No matter what, if you can start and end your day with gratefulness. Again, I feel like I'm just speaking in generalities. I don't know I'm trying to find the right word for what I'm trying to say. But I really do mean it. It is as simple as that. Sometimes it's really just remembering to be grateful for where you are and what you have, instead of focusing on the negative. It's okay to focus on the negative. It's okay to focus on the challenge or the failure experience that you're having. But number one, it's not your identity. Number two, God has given you wisdom to overcome it. And number three, you can trust him and you can take action and change your situation if you can develop that muscle of courage.
Yeah, I 100% agree with everything you guys said. Yeah, I think it's a really great skill to be able to overcome this fear, and to be able to walk into whatever you need to walk into and to obey what God is asking you to do. Because I think if you do fall into the trap of temptation because I could get you 1 million views, I could. But the things we'd have to do it, like to guarantee those things, I think are a lot of times suspect, and they're a lot of times, not what you would want to do morally. And I think a lot of people are finding that out today, right? If you ever heard of someone like Johnny Somali or some of these other guys like Ice Poseidon and different things that are like nuisance streamers or people that are just making problems in the world in order to get views, basically. A lot of them are facing jail time at the moment in different countries because they've just gone over and caused issues, right? And so we don't want to do that. We want to keep our standard, especially as Christians, because we are representatives, right? We're representatives of the kingdom, and so to do that is very important. Now, I think I definitely agree with the point that you said of consistency, because if you just keep on creating content and don't let failure speak to you, that I think is a huge key. Because you don't allow it to control you allow it to adjust your future content, but you don't allow it to control your future content in the sense of I am not like I've been so struck with fear in my past where I'm like, I'm just not going to create anything for years, right? Not with videos necessarily, but with music and different things that I've done in the past, right? When I was a kid, especially, I'd really get scared of like, oh, if I create something else, someone else is going to criticize it and it's not going to be good, and I'm going to be looked down upon because of it, right? So don't do that. Allow your creativity to flow. Allow what God has asked you to do to continue to go. And if you can have a constant, just, hey, I am going to put out a video at this time, if it's weekly, if it's two a week, if it's bi-weekly, if it's monthly, whatever it is, I would really suggest multiple times a week if you can. I think that's probably best for YouTube, but let that be your schedule and do not deviate from it ever, right? I think if you can do that, the success will come in time.